Hey mathletes, welcome to Math It Up 2000. We are going to be covering rates and unit rates today. So let's begin with rates. So rates are a comparison, a ratio that has a comparison between two different units. So that's the difference between a ratio compares two or more numbers or quantities. This is a little different in that the units are going to be different. So one of the most common things we see is miles per hour. So we would be comparing, maybe they drove 50 miles in 2 hours. So those are different units. We have miles being compared to hours. So that's a rate. We are going to look at a specific type of rate now, and that specific type of rate is called a unit rate. And a unit rate takes a rate and asks what would that be per one. So this means we're going to look at it per one. So if we take our example, 50 miles were driven in 2 hours, what we're looking for is how does that look when we only have one as our unit, so 1 hour. Now there's a couple of ways to do these. One of the things we can do is simply use our MAGIC version of 1, our MAGIC VOO. Remember, 1 can be very helpful to us. 1 can do a lot of things to help us in math and in algebra. So we can take our version of 1 and we can, remember, we can multiply any number by 1 and it stays the same. It keeps its identity. 1 is identity for multiplication. And we can also divide any number by 1 and it keeps its identity because 1 is identity for division as well. The trick here is for us is that we have to find a version of 1 that helps us. So 1 can look like this, but it can also look like this. It can also look like this. It can also look like this. 1 is going to be the number we arrive at when we have any number in the numerator and denominator of a fraction that are exactly the same. So if I would like to turn a 2 into a 1 through multiplication or division, what am I going to do? Well, I can divide that 2 by 2, and that's going to turn this 2 hours into a 1 hour. But remember, I have to use a version of 1. I can't just randomly divide the denominator without dividing the numerator. That's going to change the value. If we want to keep the value the same, the identity the same, we have to use that version of 1. And the version of 1 that would end with a 2 in the denominator would have a 2 in the numerator as well. So once I divide that 2 hours by 2, I get 1 hour. And then now I'm also going to divide that 50 miles by 2, and that gets us 25 miles. So that means that 50 miles in 2 hours as a unit rate would be 25 miles in 1 hour. And again, I've done that by dividing by a version of 1, because I can do that and not change the value. I will change the way it looks, but I will not change the value or the relationship. 50 to 2 is the same relationship as 25 to 1. All right, let's carry on here. So let's look at a different type of problem here. Let's say I have 36 pencils that are going to cost altogether $1.44. So I have different units. I have pencils and I have money. So that would give me a rate. So I could create this rate to look like this. $1.44 is going to get me 36 pencils. I'm going to abbreviate that. And that's a rate. But what if I want that unit rate? I want to find out how much money I'm paying for just one pencil. So again, what we're going to do is say instead of 36 pencils, I'm going to turn that into one pencil. And then I have to figure out how to make this work. So again, I can multiply or divide by any version of 1 I would like. And what it looks like here is if I want to turn a 36 into a 1, I have to divide 36 by 36. And again, if this is truly a version of 1, I have to have the same numerator and denominator. So I would also divide $1.44 by 36. So again, 36 pens divided by 36 leaves me 1 pen, and $1.44 divided by 36 ends up being 4 cents. So that tells me that I am paying $1.44 for 36 pencils, but they each one costs 4 cents. And how would we check our work? We can take that 4 cents and we can multiply it by 36 and make sure that we are correct. So 24, 14, I have 2 places behind my decimal here. I will do that here, and I see that I do have $1.44. All right, let's keep working on these. We'll do one more, and then we're going to go into check and correct. So how about looking at some baking? So I see that I have in this recipe 15 cups of flour are needed to bake 6 pizza crusts. So we can see that rate form there. I have flour, cups versus crusts. Those are 2 different measures, 2 different units. That's a rate. But now I want to figure out what this is going to be if I just want to bake 1 pizza crust. Abbreviate there. So again, I can multiply this fraction, this rate here, by any version of 1. It's going to change the way it looks, but it won't change the relationship between the numbers. It won't change the value. So if I want to turn a 6 into a 1, I do have to divide that by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. But again, this is my version of 1. That would require me to divide by 6 over 6. And when I divide that 15 cups of flour by the number 6, I get 2.5, and that's cups. So if I want to just make 1 pizza crust, I can change this recipe, and it tells me here through the math that I will need 2.5 cups to make 1 pizza crust. Okay, we are going to now go to our check and correct page. And on this page, you are going to do the 2 problems and then come back, start the video again, and check your work. Make sure it's all correct, and then go on. All right, so in our first problem, we have a 4-pack of muffins. And the total cost for that 4-pack is $8.40. And what we need to know is what is the unit rate? What is the cost for 1 muffin? In another problem here, we have someone who walks 5 blocks in 8 minutes. And we want to know what that unit rate is. How far did that person go in 1 minute? All right, this is where you stop the video, write down the problems, do the work, and then check back with us and make sure your work and your answers are correct. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back, mathletes. Let's take a look at these problems. So we have, in the first problem, a cost of $8.40. We want to know what each muffin costs. That was the question. And there are 4 of them. So I'm going to set this up as $8.40 as my numerator, and then I've got to divide that by the 4 muffins. So again, it's a rate because we have dollars and muffins, 2 different units. And for us to turn this into a unit rate, we have to, again, get to 1 muffin, always a 1, and figure out how we do that using our version of 1. So 4 muffins turn into 1 muffin when I multiply or divide it. And in this case, we're going to have to divide, and our version of 1 is going to be a 4 here. 4 divided by 4 is going to get me a 1. And of course, if this is a 1, I need a 4 over 4. That's what turns it into a 1. And when I divide my $8.40 by a 4, I get $2.10. So the cost per muffin, the cost per 1 muffin, is $2.10. And now we have somebody who has walked 5 blocks, we'll just abbreviate that, in 8 minutes. Right, you can probably already see what's going to happen here a little differently than our other problems. So I have to turn that 8 minutes into 1 minute to get that unit rate. So we have to think about what our version of 1 is, and to turn an 8 into a 1 through multiplication or division, we are going to divide that by 8. 8 divided by 8 will give me 1. And of course, to make this a version of 1, I need 8 here as well. Now 8 over 8 is a 1. I can divide anything by a 1 and it retains its value. And a 5 divided by an 8 is going to get me 0.625. And again, we are used to rounding numbers back to the 100th place. So I would take a look at this digit and say that this would be 0.63 miles in 1 minute. So a little over half a mile per minute. All right, now we're going to look at the problems, the on your own problems. You will do these on your own while this information is fresh in your mind to practice this skill a little further. So our first problem is we have 3 pens in a pack, and they cost $8.55. What is the cost per pen? So we are looking at how much is it to buy 1 pen, or what did we pay in this package of 3 for each pen? The second problem is we have someone who swam 200 yards in 5 minutes. Here we are going to look for the yards they swam per minute. So how far did they swim in each minute on the average if they swam 200 yards in 5 minutes? Those are your problems. Again, use your other problems to support you and do this work now while it's fresh in your mind. Thank you as always for watching, and peace, love, and pie to all. Bye-bye.